Joining us now for stories trending around the world is the pride of Ogidi.
Good morning.
Annie Eziosakwe.
Good morning. Rufai, it's so good to have you back here in Lagos. I was following your chronicles, online. Loved it.
Thank you.
Good morning, Ayo. Good to see you as always. And Vimbai.
Good morning, Annie.
So happy to see you.
My spontaneous team player,
Of
you know
course.
how we do this.
Annie,
Never know what's going to happen.
What do you have in your arsenal this morning?
A lot. So we'll get right into it.
Okay, right here in the city.
Exactly. Oh, God.
That wasn't funny. I'm so
Yes,
slow.
of course. I'm not a big sports fan, but I was watching the game yesterday. So, good morning to everyone out there. Thank you all for starting your day with us. Let's begin what's trending in London with brothers and sisters in the diaspora heading out en masse, not because of sports, to the doors of UK Parliament in protest to demand the immediate removal of the INEC Chairman Joash Amupitan. Now, in the clips which started circulating on social media on Sunday, the group is seen demanding a free and fair election in 2027, highlighting just how connected a number of Nigerians in the diaspora still are to matters here at home. Let's take a look.
So we should defend our democracy. We should make sure 2027 election is free, credible, transparent. Anybody that loses goes home. Amupitan have shown to us that he's not credible. He has no integrity. A lot of antecedents right from universities have shown the way he's changed his ID on the social media space. It shows to us. For seeing that, we believe that he's a forger. He cannot oversee this coming election. So we want Amupitan to vamoose, to leave that position. We don't want him anymore.
Now, this comes as Amupitan's role as INEC chairman has, of course, come under a fair share of scrutiny after allegations that he expressed favor towards the ruling All Progressives Congress on an old ex-post on social media. Now, this has raised questions about his level of neutrality in this all-important position, despite Amupitan denying the allegations. But clearly, members of the public both here and abroad are still concerned about, what's going on here, but how much will protests in London really move the needle on our elections here in Nigeria?
I love what you said at the beginning as to it just is a demonstration of how very connected the diasporan community are. And they should be, because if you look at their remittances and the impact they have on our economy, on the GDP of Nigeria, we have at the last measurement, $600 million monthly. In fact, the federal government says they're targeting $1 billion monthly from the diaspora. And as we've seen more migration for economic reasons, for educational reasons, we've also seen an increase in remittances. There's also been consistently over the years, even though it hasn't moved much in terms of actualization, this diasporan voting, voting from diaspora, since they contribute significantly through their remittances. So I'm setting this to say that a lot of times, many Nigerians who live abroad are still very invested in what happens here. And to whatever extent they are able to, they try as much as possible to use their voices, their impact, and through this is peaceful protests in the UK. Now, to what extent that would have on the politics here in Nigeria, I don't think in real terms a lot. The highest that would happen is, number one, awareness, public awareness. When there's a shadow cast on the integrity of the person at the helm of affairs of INEC, then you might want to take a second look to investigate. I know earlier today we talked about the fact that there's an investigation ongoing as to ascertain whether or not that post can be linked back to Professor Joash Amupitan. We're looking forward to the outcome. But preliminary findings using AI and tools on X have demonstrated that the number, the email address are indeed, indeed can be traced back to the INEC chairman. Now, the guests we've had on the show today, whether today or in previous times, have talked about the importance and the sanctity of the integrity of our elections, especially with regards to whoever it is that is in charge or responsible for the prosecution of that elections, the chairman of INEC. And so we've talked about the fact that the person should be above board. There shouldn't be questions around integrity or partisanship for that person. And where there are questions like that, it is definitely cause for concern. We've also talked about the fact that until we even deal with the institutional framework of INEC, whereby the president is the one who appoints, who becomes INEC chairman and state rex. We will continue to have challenges like this that put a question mark on integrity and the partisanship or non-partisanship of the INEC chairman. So what we should be pushing more for as a people is electoral reform that starts with making INEC truly independent by setting up an independent body that appoints the INEC chairman. As long as we have the president appointing the person who would be, prosecuting his elections, it will be very difficult to put your own enemy in an election that you're a part of. It doesn't even make sense at all.
Right.
But there should be investigations conducted, and if found that indeed it was his account that posted that victory is sure in response to an APC youth leader's ex-post, then for the sake of integrity, it would be best to actually step aside, because you cannot, in all fairness, prosecute an election where you are a party in, or you have shown or demonstrated in the past, partisanship.
Absolutely. And let's stay on this politics thread with this focus on 2027. With reactions pouring in on social media to comments made by the former Kogi West Senator Dino Melaye boldly stating that he could flat out defeat President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in a free and fair election. Now, Melaye made these comments during the Mike On podcast on Saturday, where he was pretty candid about his critiques of the current administration. Let's take a look.
Anybody among those interested in presidency in ADC will do 1 million times better than Tinubu. There can never be a worse president than Tinubu. There can never be.
So Dino would defeat Bola Tinubu?
Me?
Dino Melaye?
Let's go. Let's go on a free and fair election.
You are
today.
Senator
Bola
Dino
Tinubu
Melaye
is the most unpopular politician in Nigeria.
So you can beat President Tinubu at the election?
Anokpa. Anobole.
What is that?
And of course, social media was awash with reactions. I'll take one post on X from Ola Wale, who says, a person who couldn't win his own polling unit when he contested in the Kogi State governorship election now wants to challenge President Tinubu. This man, Dino Melaye, really jokes a lot. Then you have Stephen, who said, it has to be a terribly bad situation for almost everyone to think he can win a sitting president in an election. An administration that has performed well won't face that level of backlash, but we see the country. People are either complaining or crying. Hardship everywhere. And finally, Sarkis says beating an incumbent isn't about confidence, it's about structure, numbers, and a united front. Anything less is just talk. But that video is coming out as another video of the former senator is also being circulated online, which shows him inspecting his luxurious home and multiple items of furniture fully decked with his acronym SDM. Let's take a look. $2027, the gloves are out, the games have started. Rufai, I'll come to you on this. I mean, Melaye's statements that he could defeat the president, a sitting president. I mean, what do you make of this? All of these comments.
Goodness me. I mean, let's not take this joke too far, because this is purely a joke, right? Dino Melaye cannot defeat a man that has been senator way back in the 90s, governor of Lagos, two-term governor, and now president. He won his election and got in. Dino Melaye has always, he has just gone from House of Rep, then he became senator, all right? He tried at being a governor, he wasn't successful. With the backing President Tinubu has got and the power of incumbency, which is not supposed to be a thing in politics, but it's a thing here because our political system is also skewed. It's not possible. So it's not even a joke we should entertain in the first place. And if he tries it and gets on the ballot, he's going to be roundly beaten. President Tinubu has participated in an election where he has national spread. Dino has not participated in an election to show his national spread. That's it. So I think we've been able to clarify that. Secondly, the point I want to make as regards the protest. I think this matter is very simple with INEC. By now, for INEC to save its own integrity, which has already been damaged by the technical glitch in 2023, because this was the same INEC that promised us a lot in 2023, but the technical glitch dampened everything. And you know why the technical glitch is interesting? It wholly happened in the presidential election. The other elections that happened on that same day, House of Rep and Senate, we had none of such. That integrity blight is still there. Now you have an INEC chief that responded to a message by Dio Israel, my very good friend and brother, as the youth leader of the APC. And he came back, his first rebuttal was that he doesn't have a social media account. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
Then, while he said that, they brought up forensics through Grok, saying that he had changed the account, and the account, they also put out his phone number and the likes. In fact, Nigerians have been sending money to him.
To a particular bank account.
To the particular bank account and all of that. And they saw the email there. In the same breath, the Senate president also came out to say that he only tweeted victory is sure.
Even if he was the one.
Even if he was the one. So from Mr. Amupitan saying he doesn't have a social account, and the president saying if he was the one. When you have a matter as contentious as this, all you need to do for the interest of integrity is subject this to an independent forensic verification. Let it not be a government agency. If INEC release any report today, we're not going to listen. Because INEC said they talked about technical glitch. They released a report which a lot of people felt was not coherent enough. We want independent experts to come and look at all of this trail and bring out. With independent experts, you can even go as much as pointing out when the account was open and all of that. If possible, we can even contact, the independent experts should even contact X for the back end of the day this account was opened. Because we want integrity, and that's just it. And we are saying this because of INEC. Because INEC integrity has been in the tatters in the past. I think that's just simple. It's not about releasing a statement by INEC. No. You can't be in the eye of a storm and be the one to release a statement and investigate yourself. It has to be done by an independent body. And that's why those people are protesting.
Mm-hmm. And, as we talk about politics, 2027, and people in the ADC, let's now head to speculations around another potential ADC candidate. About this next story, former Attorney-General Abubakar Malami, also trending now, with videos of his homecoming to Kebbi State last week, sparking conversation around the crowds that shut down streets for his return. Now, after exactly 123 days spent in detention and exile, Malami returned to a throng of supporters who were seen waving ADC flags, chanting slogans in support of his newfound freedom. Let's take a look. His return has sparked mixed reactions, with some viewing him as a proper potential 2027 candidate for Kebbi State governor, as he embodies the opposition vis-a-vis the APC. But of course, he comes with his own set of controversy, with Nigerian authorities only recently dropping charges of terrorism financing against both him and his son. And he's still very much embroiled in, all of that legal drama.
Yes, well, when it comes to grassroots politics, you can't dismiss the impact and the influence of people like the former AGF Malami, dating back to the CPC days. These are the people who worked hand in hand with the late President Buhari consistently, until the merger came with APC, and the rest is history, as they say. However, the conversation here is around, I think, something we alluded to earlier in our conversation with the chairman of the PRP party, Dr. Hakeem Baba Ahmed, which is how often do we ask about people's track record and their performance in governance? Because when I watched this video and when I looked at the various narrations online, yes, there was a huge crowds that welcomed him. However, there were some other videos around it that had some young men, speaking and saying that, no, this is a thief, we don't want a thief. So there are two narratives around that. Of course, he's currently currently going through the court process. So he's not a convicted anything. He's being alleged to have been involved in some corruption. The charges, the terrorist-related charges, have been dropped. They also include his wife and his son. So he's still going through the process, and everybody is innocent until proven guilty. However, I think it's all about the perception around it, that there are some diehard followers out there. And this is why I began by talking about grassroots politics and the journey with CPC and those who held late President Buhari's hand and ensured that those votes, part of those 12 million votes, were in Kebbi State, the so-called 12 million votes of the late President Buhari's legacy. So it just reminds us of the fact that no matter what, there are some people, some political followers who will always have allegiances to certain personalities, no matter what. They can do no wrong in their eyes. That's the nature of the charismatic type of politics that we have playing. We also have Machiavellian politics at play as well, if he's able to maneuver himself. He was speaking at a separate event and he was talking about, Tinubu will be a one-term president. The governor of Kebbi State will be a one-term governor as well. So it looks highly likely that he wants to throw his hat in there. But it now also takes us back to the Electoral Act as amended 2026, which now says that, okay, should those who are involved in court cases be allowed to even contest? Shouldn't these court cases first conclude? There's that side of it. Then there's a second side of it where he's saying that, well, all of these court cases are just political persecution, himself and Malam El-Rufai. So many moving pieces, but ultimately, I think the story here is about the masses, those people who will blindly follow whoever they feel is their leader, the person they love most. Although you have other people who report that he was being booed as well. So a lot at play here, but I think the moral of the story is that where the opposition is concerned in 2027, with the fractures within ADC, now we hear movements to PRP, some are saying NDC, there's a lot of moving pieces, so it's really going to take a lot for those in opposition to get into office, and I certainly do hope that the best men and women win.
Mm-hmm. It's a very, very muddled space, but we have all of our eyes on 2027. But let's now turn to Benue State, where right now new videos are showing that the remaining 13 passengers who were suddenly kidnapped last Wednesday along the Makurdi-Otukpo Road are now free. 8 of those passengers, just students, teenagers, who took that trip to sit for the ongoing Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination in the state. Now, their release, confirmed by the Commissioner of Police, Ifeanyi Emenari, on Sunday, while bringing 15 of the rescued victims to the state governor, Hyacinth Alia, at the government house in Makurdi, as you see on your screens. But this whole incident sparked controversy, 1, after the abduction itself, and 2, when the authority of the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board, or JAMB, put out a statement denying that any of their candidates were part of this abduction. And in response, one of the relatives of the victims, who requested to remain anonymous, called out JAMB's statement, quote, calling it disturbing and dismissive, given that a number of passengers on this bus were going to take their exams, with calls for security growing louder by the day. But meanwhile, on Sunday, at that same event, Benue State Governor Hyacinth Alia has also called on JAMB to reschedule the 8 students' exams given everything they just experienced. Alia emphasized that their circumstances should not be neglected. Let's take a look at what he had to say.
I invite you to please have them scheduled to write this JAMB of theirs. So send the dates, and we are willing in the state to take care of the rest of it. Young students, I also would like to assure you the State Ministry of Education support in pursuit of your education as well.
And we'll keep watching that story to essentially see how everything develops with the students and with the state of their examinations. But as we talk about students and education across the country, let's now turn our focus to the University of Nigeria at Nsukka, which is now under the spotlight after videos of its hostels and restrooms, both male and female, started trending for being in a deplorable and completely unsanitary state. Now, why is this happening? Students say that cleaners at the school have gone on strike over 5 months of unpaid salaries. While in a video posted by a student on TikTok, This is the result. Let's take a look.
Imagine coming back from a long and stressful day at school where one lecturer has just discombobulated your entire day and head with one strong test. And you decide, oh my God, I'm so tired, I'm so stressed, I'm so sweaty. Let me use toilet, let me take my bath. And this is the first thing you see when you go to your series. One would think that whosoever is staying in this hostel is staying here for free. Even with the increase of school fees and the increase of hostel fees, there is still not an increase in the standard of living in this school. In fact, the standard of living depreciates every single day. This is how most of the hostels in this school right now looks. Because cleaners have gone on strike. And the reason why they went on strike is because the school has not paid them for a sum of 5 months. And nobody can really blame them for going on strike. Because can you imagine coming to work with your money every day for the past 5 months and still not receiving a pay each month?
Now, we'll take one quick reaction from Nkechukwu on X, who said, all these institutions doesn't mean they don't have a facility management unit that ensures that with the little monthly disbursement, these facilities can at least be managed? Or are they always waiting for the government budget while the facility itself is depreciating? But it's not just the women's hostels and restrooms. The men's restrooms are also trending, with another video also making the rounds on social media. And I think we have video of the male hostels, of the Eni Njoku male hostel at the same university, sparking outrage and concern from people online. Now, the caption on the videos that were circulating on X said that students are currently living in conditions worse than a prisoner. Rufai, I'll come to you on this story because, you know, the university hasn't issued an official statement, but we know that back in February, medical students were protesting because they announced a 100% increase on the price of hostels. So people are wondering what's going on.
When Nnamdi Azikiwe conceptualized the idea of this University of Nigeria, it was supposed to be a model after American universities. It was supposed to be a citadel for knowledge. But the question is, how does somebody effectively add to society and learn in such an environment? What are the structures in place? Is there anything the students could have done themselves? Is there anything the authorities could have done? Who is to manage that system? Because you see, when you see degradation like that of a facility, it's just a failure. I don't think the degradation is about even the 5-month strike by the cleaners. I think it's deeper than that.
This is not
Most of those deaths is not about 5-month strike.
Running water there.
So the question is, apart from the authorities, have the students also been able to coordinate and organize themselves? Do they even have water? I mean, look at this. This is squalor. And this is also the situation in which most people live in boarding schools that are federal government owned. The question we should ask is, why is it that we have a system that anything that is government owned is mostly in a very decrepit and despicable situation? Apart from this, there are other many schools that have this. Somebody once sent me about, I think, a college in Oji in Enugu State also, as regards this. When you take a sample of most university hostels in Nigeria today, it will not be different from this, mostly federal schools. So the question is, what is wrong with the system? And it is out of this system people come out and you think they can add to the college? It's just like a documentary that ran many years ago as regards the police college. Till date, has anything changed? So it's a systemic problem.
It is. Do you know, I want us to do a challenge. Let's see the state of toilets in all universities.
Take a picture and post it.
Post it. We would see that what we have here is a deep problem. And in fairness, so that we don't say, is this government? It's inherited. It's a cultural problem. We've talked about the dirtiness of certain states. You know, some people are still sending pictures of some states where in the spotlight, it's still very dirty. So we have a problem. Number one is that there must be a cultural shift. Even the way that we as a people see dirt and cleanliness and dirtiness, number one. Number two is that let us see transparency and accountability in the amount of money that goes into facility management for some of these institutions. Where does the money go to? Who is responsible for that? And why do we have them in this kind of state? Then finally, the alumni. Because the alumni body plays a huge role in universities and institutions of learning. Can they come together so that their institutions of repute do not go to disrepute in such a manner? These are certain areas. It's a public-private partnership thing, not just the government's responsibility.
No, it's very serious, especially with those videos. I mean, it's shocking, and students should not be in that kind of situation. But let's now quickly take our next story, with Lagos airport visitors now absolutely furious over a sharp uptick in parking fees at Murtala Mohammed International Airport. So sharp that if you're parking overnight, you could be looking at paying 50,000 naira. Now, you may or may not have noticed the changes as they just took effect this month in April, and the changes are significant. These are the updated prices. Before, typical saloon car parking was 2,500, while SUVs were about 3,500. The biggest change comes to overnight parking, which previously varied between 5,000 to 6,000 naira, and people are upset.
It's not normal anymore. Just an hour, 3,500 naira for car park at airports. At Amupitan airports, international airports. 3,500 for an hour, 3,500 for an hour. That's mad now. I used 21 minutes and I paid 3,500 at Amupitan International Airport. Can you see I'm at International Airport? Can you see? At Amupitan MM1 Airport. If you like, 2027, let them deceive you. You stupid people, let them deceive you. Let them keep telling you that we are going to fix Nigeria. One way or the other. That rice that you are eating, that money they are giving you, you will pay it one way or the other. Today, I'm very frustrated. Why will I pay 3,500 naira at international airport for just 1 hour car park? That's madness.
And I think we want to take this story in depth tomorrow, but Ayal, very quickly, if you want to just mention anything about it.
Or like I was victim, a few of us, because if you travel, it's a nice way to park at the airport overnight. But one point I wanted to make was that this is targeted at people like boat drivers or Uber drivers or commercial drivers and low-end workers, because rich people have drivers who take them to the airport and take them back home. Can Nigerians catch a break, please?
Right.
And I hope we can discuss this in detail a bit more.
We definitely
we're paying
will.
for so much, and yet we're not seeing the dividends of what we're paying for. It is totally unfair.
Yeah, we definitely will. We'll take that story in depth tomorrow. Do we have time for our good news, or? Okay, we'll also take this tomorrow as well.
Yeah, right. So that's all on this edition of the morning show. We'd like to celebrate all of you, Amazons.
We celebrate you. Media personality of the year.
Joy is coming. Joy is coming. Dupa, Oluwa, eh. Joy is coming. Only the morning. Dupa, Oluwa, eh. Joy is coming.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
We love it.
It's all your award. It's not about me. It's all about all of us. And there's implication. Chim dog. Implication. Done.